Well, friends, with this, good evening, friends, and welcome to this online session. I could call it Online Journey of Procure-to-Pay, which in short we are calling as P2P, where we also shortlisting where e-procurement meets account payable. So this is basically end-to-end process. So one side we have upstream on the called as e-procurement part, other side is the downstream. We got account payable, receipt and account payable. So we'll walk through all those things around. As we have mentioned in our initial message to all of you, the key focus, the key message which Jayant also asked around, and that I would say the takeaway for all of you would be understanding the terms. What is P2P? What is e-procurement? What is S2P? Because most of the time, wherever I've done the sessions around, or the classes, or the training, people have confusion about these terms around. So I will try to walk through with you guys, what do these terms stands for? So once we have understood fully P2P, I will say, what is the scope of P2P? We'll walk through the building blocks of P2P. Those of you who are planning to move into the P2P, what are the building blocks around it and how to implement it? And I'll also walk through with you my practical tips, my lessons learned throughout my journey on this part. Friend, this program is being launched, I would say, in partnership with JICAS, which is the leading provider of complete source-to-pay solutions. They are I would say they have been named this time again the leaders in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for static sourcing applications. Well, friend, with this, now my introductions, I think I have met many of you, but still I will, for the purpose of understanding the background part, my name is Krishan Batra. My education, I'm the MBA from the Business School of USA, and then I've done my BTech, MTech from IIT Delhi. And my experience goes back to 4 decades, mostly in the supply chain field. Lastly, I was the chairman of the United Nations Supply Chain Activities in New York. I have worked in most of the countries, and presently for the last 3 years, I'm handling as a CEO of ISM-INDIA. Now, the JICAS introduction I've already given you, who are the partners with us. Well, friend, the agendas for today is what is procurement and its evolutions. So I think that's first thing is to understand what is procurement. Each one of us has a different meaning behind it. Some people call purchasing, some people call procurement. So I want to clarify that and the evolution part of it. Understanding the terms P2P, procure to pay. Some people call purchase to pay, but I'm terming as procure to pay. Then S2P, source to payments. Then we also have e-procurements. So what does exactly P2P covers? The building blocks, the resulting benefits of P2P. Why should I put money into this? Does it make sense to me? And selection and implementation of the system around. If you are the leaders and the supply chain leader, you want to convince your management to go for P2P, how to go about it? First thing, how to select, how to implement, and the future of P2P. Do you think this is the P2P is going to be a future things as the short-term things? That's what we'll walk through. The benefits of an efficient procurement process. I mean, today is all about automating the processes. When we talk of efficiency, it's nothing but automating the process. And then the last 15-20 minutes, whatever time it takes, I'm available for all that Q&A. Here I've tried to summarize the procurement itself. So when we say procurement, so keep that in mind. Procurement is the process of sourcing products and services from the point of supply to the point of demand. The term purchasing dates back to when I started my careers. Purchasing has a very limited role, but that purchasing role scope has get widened. With the scope becoming widened, the term became procurement. And even now, I'll say the procurement role has become much wider in the UN. I mean, if I look at ISM headquarters hours, we are calling it supply management. People have gone further to call supply chain management. I've also tried to summarize one line is it is competitive differentiator. In today's any organization you go, particularly manufacturing, 60 to 80% of the whole spend of the company is nothing but coming from third parties. Third party means procurement or supply management. So if I have to make any saving, it has to come from there. This is where we call as a competitive differentiators. If one company versus another companies, the companies are competing today, but they're competing on supply chain management. They're competing on procurement. They're competing on supply management. So that's the way it's becoming a differentiators around. Same thing I've tried to put up into the 4 blocks around 5 blocks. So the focus is understanding e-procurement, assessing your P2P, developing P2P strategies, selecting the right P2P solutions, and implementing it. That's the broad presentations what we're going to cover in the next 1 hour. Now the journey part obviously dates back to, actually the e-procurement has been in 60s also. We were using EDI, electronic data interchange. But the major growth came up, I would say, from 1990 when internet came up in the pictures. From the day we got the internet, the journey of e-procurement became much faster. And this is what I've tried to show in this slide around. See, if you go back traditionally, if I look back my 4 decades back, traditional procurement, making a requisition on paper. A requisition also have seen those cases with 12 approvals. Then somebody making a POs, then sending it to the supplier, supplier keying back the same informations. Again, the errors could happen around. Rec will never match with POs. The POs will never match with the confirmations. Invoice will never match. So there used to be a lot of errors, timings, delay. That used to be the traditional procurement. I know in India we are still living in some companies in this type of domain as well. Then the electronic systems came up to support the traditional procurements. This came with the mainframe initially with the big companies. EDI was there, electronic data interchange. I happened to work with UN EDIFACT standards around because I was based in Geneva that time. We were developing the EDIFACT standards to support this. Then came up the internet as a communication channels. So initially it was all about the data being transferred electronically, whether through the mainframe, whether through EDI, but then came emails, other mode of communication came with what we could communicate with the vendors around. Then the next process which happened in the e-procurement was internet tools, and then we had the platforms, and those platforms are very clear in this one. So we are moving much faster on these directions. Today we have S2P, we have P2P, we have strategic sourcing. Under those we have contract management, we have spend management, wide range of applications around. So this is where we'll try to touch where is this going to be in the future. So the evolution of e-procurement. Now this whole change is happening. What is driving it? What makes it to go this way around? So I would say the very first one is lower transaction cost. Companies are competing. I work with one X company, my competitors, so customers are expecting at a better pricing. Costs are going up, but we can't raise the price. So what has to be happening around to how to cut the transaction cost? If requisition takes me 1 week, if PO takes me another 10 days, communication takes another weeks around, if I can cut down those, make it in hours, make it seamless. So that's the way we are trying to say cut down the transaction cost. Improve the efficiency of the process. That's the way to cut the costs around. And that is making us, and that is happening because of technology and globalizations. So both are helping us to move this process much faster. Second thing has been the compliance part. You are a company with having branches all over the places. Everybody is buying in their own ways. Somebody might be buying at a lower price. Some might be buying for the higher price for the same items. We might have got a long-term arrangement. We might have got a rate contract with one company, but still nobody is using it. So this is where the concept came around. How do we ensure the compliance? People follows, people go to only those companies with whom we have a long-term arrangement. Cut down the reduced maverick spend. I'm sure you all know about the maverick spend. Many people, particularly those who are, I'm doing the travel, I'm doing HR, I want to hire somebody. Those spend are not even covered in the procurements. 40 to 50% of the spend is done outside those contracts around. That's the way we're calling it a maverick spend. But if you can make use of the long-term arrangements, we follow those around, we get the best deal, but some people are not aware of it, systems are not speaking to each other, a lot of maverick spend around it. Shorter cycle time. People want to cut the cycle time. The patience is going down. The guys, they're given the order to you, we want within 2 days, within 3 days, we want the confirmations. The market prices of the software, market prices of the goods, all are leading it to the evolution of e-procurement. Again, I have tried to summarize here. So E word is not about putting the E in front of the outdated procurement practices. If your outdated practices are there, you're not changing your procurement practices. Just putting an E is not going to help you. So you have to keep in mind, before you put the word E, you have to ensure that your practices are best practices. They're state of art. Even once I was sitting in a meeting around, they said, guys, there are two bad things around. The moment we put E on the front, people think it is something about IT. Other side, we put procurement. And as it is, procurement word sometimes doesn't have, you can say, attraction quotient as well. So that's the way it is there. So my interest to you is, if you want to make it attractive quotient, you want this to be very meaningful to the top peoples, ensure your business processes are very well done before you put the word E on top of it. So this is where I said you in the beginning, the drivers, international competitions, globalizations. So that's the one which is extending our value chains. And now we are talking of value chain going up to payments, up to account payments. So if account payable I can cover up, so my e-procurement chain becomes longer. So it becomes P2P. Now the performance impact, I'm trying to give you some statistics which we collected around some data. This I got from my headquarters around. So the maverick spend, they told us, based on the study, based on the survey, they found they could cut down, which was 38% for those companies who have implemented P2P to 14%. Savings on maverick spend obviously will be there because you're using already the contract which are approved. So that's where it goes on. Then come requisitions to order cycles. If it was taking 20 days, now it is going down to 4 days. So the number of days are going down. The next one is requisition to order process. The moment I make a requisition, still I am able to make the final orders. If that process time, I'm able to cut down by 50%. Spend under purchasing. I'm sure all of you know very well, if somebody has to say, guys, your spend is around $100 million, out of which how much is going through procurements? I have seen with many companies with whom I have worked with a consultant, it varies a lot. In some cases, could be 60%, some cases 50%. Some are well controlled, well managed, maybe 80%. But this is the way it happens. By putting the systems, there has been an increase. So there's a gradual increase around. This is where now I'll try to spend more time in explaining what is P2P, what is S2P. Now here you look around. So source to procure is the very first part. But if I source to pay, if I make it around, the whole chain is source to pay. So source to pay means you're trying to do sourcing. You know very well what items you have been buying regularly. For those items, based on your spend, based on your category, you're trying to identify the supply sources. Either you're making a long-term arrangement with them, or you saying, guys, you are my certified suppliers. So that part is done upfront. So upfront, based on your spend, you're trying to say, guys, you are my certified supplier. You are my approved suppliers. Those are the one which is coming in source to procure. The next stage comes procure to invoice. So you have from procure starts from requisitions. So the procurement process is starting from requisitions. And then from requisition, you're creating a purchase orders. Now these purchase orders could be coming either through the selection to the catalogs or through the non-catalogs. Both could be there around. And then obviously once the goods have been received, then you're doing invoice, receipt and processing. So there's a receipt, and based on the receipt you make the invoice part now. So you have the voucher online, you have payment processing. Now the payment processing is going on with the combination of two-way matching or three-way matching. I could say, guys, my purchase order is there, my receipt is there, my voucher is there. If all three of them are matching, I press the button and payment is processed. And the last is, you've done the business, now you made the payment. You want to also see the vendor management part also. So this is the whole chain which works it out. Then on top of it, we have some other tools like procurement analytics, data management, system support, whether system is your own system or you're using clouds. So we'll walk through that. So in this slide, I've tried to show you S2P is the total chain around. Then we have source to procure. So S2P could be source to payment. It could be source to procure. Then could be procure to invoice, invoice to pay. So what we are covering today is procure to pay. So that's the one we are trying to, the one with the common color shaded around. Let me try to explain same thing again, different way. We have sourcing, we have buying. So the sourcing is a part which can be done through e-tendering, e-auctions. Based on the spend, you could make the long-term arrangements. You could build up the catalogs around. Then the buying part is the one which we're talking around in the e-purchasing. That's the one we are calling around P2P. So you can see in the buying part, which is P2P, there's identifying the needs, create the requisitions, route the approvals, create the purchase orders, receive the goods, and the last is payment and settlement. So this is where I've tried to show you around. The sourcing is one. So there's another one called buying, which is the one we're talking of P2P here. Same thing again, I'm trying to explain in a different fashion. So, okay guys, because for me, the clarity on P2P is very important. The choosing and sourcing the needed goods and services, placing the orders, receiving the goods, handling of invoice and payments. But behind all this, automation, automation, automation. And automation has no meaning if you don't streamline and simplify. If your processes are old-fashioned, they are 20 years old processes, I think then it is not going to really serve you major purpose. So I've put down the three clogs around here. It means you have to simplify the process, you have to streamline the chain, then automate the process. Now comes the e-sourcing part. I've explained you already the e-sourcing part. You can do it through RFQs, RFI, online auctions, you can do that way around. So the e-procurement is moving this way. So I can move next straight way on. So P2P process is evolving a series of, if you look at the P2P, the last I've shown you, earlier they were all isolated in silos function. Account payable was a silo functions. Honestly, I tell you, in India, since now I'm here for the last 4 years, whichever company I go, payment is a major problem around. Payments are never done in time. Even for the big companies I've seen. The payment terms are 30 days, it never happens in 30 days. Now this is a place where we could make savings even. If I could make payments before 30 days, I could get some discounts even on that. So to me, this P2P, where I'm saying e-procurement meets with the account payable, is a wonderful concept because then the payment is built into this. And this is where I will try to walk through with you on the subjects around. Now here I'm again giving the same view, but I think I've covered all this, so maybe I can skip this. Now the matching part. So in accounts, when you're coming to matching, I'm touching this point intentionally. You could have two-way match. You could have three-way match. So the matching, because now you're trying to combine, you're trying to link procurement with accounts. You're trying to link procurement with accounts. I know account AP is still part of the finance. You're trying to link them together in the chain. Now the payment will be done. I have received the goods. The receipts are good not by the procurement people. They are received by the users, or the person who made the requisitions. The person who makes the requisitions, procurement people are making the POs. The people who are making the requisitions, they say, okay, we want to hire a consultant. PO has made a contract, PO has made, the procurement office has made a PO also for commitment purpose. So commitment is made through the POs. Even the contracts are also put into the PO for commitments. Then there's a receipt, somebody who's using the services. Somebody is getting some goods around. They say, yes, I have received the goods and they are meeting my expectations. So the receipt is there, satisfactory receipt. Then I've got the invoice from the supplier. And the invoice could be also e-invoice. Or I could have a hard copy and then scan it and upload into the system. But we want as least number of touches. If you're going to have too many touches in the chain is not very effective then. If you want P2P chain to be very effective, the least number of touches are going to help you. So here we want again, the e-voucher is coming around, e-invoice is there around. So same invoice, when you're getting something, it becomes electronically become the voucher. So that voucher which is there on the system, so the voucher has to match with the PO and your receipt part. So you may have some tolerance factors. So depending on the tolerance factor, they have to match, and then approval can be given on this. You could have three-way matching, you could have two-way matching. Suppose there are some good suppliers. They are certified by you. You say, guys, I don't want to check this. If the goods have been received, then two-way matching also could go around. So again, depends what you want. How do you want system to be perfect? Next question comes, why do we invest all this into e-procurements or P2P? The e-procurement is only the automation part of the process. So that means starting from requisitions till making of the POs, that's my chain, and I want to automate it. So in this automations, my objective is to cut down, improve my bottom line, my profitability. For a typical companies, there could be reduction of 5% in the purchasing cost. And that 5% reduction in procurement cost is as good as 30% in this increase in sales. Because when we say 30% increase in sale, there are operating costs. And after deducting the operating cost, the impact is only 5%. And so if you cut down the saving in your procurement by 5%, that 5% straight hits the bottom line. Another area is the indirect spend around. I'm sure most of you are conversant with the direct spend, indirect spend. So when I say direct, that means those spend which are directly going into the production. It's affecting my output, affecting my goods and services. Then there are indirects around. Indirect could be office supply, indirect could be travels. Those are all my indirect around. And this is the area which is not captured by many procurement people. So the success rate is, if you can make all direct, indirect being captured, wonderful. So that's the way we do it around. If we have e-procurement, we have P2P, then certainly more and more indirect spend will be captured through that. Now the benefits which you're looking, the driver's benefits around. Transactional benefit, as I told you, certainly when it's a very basic thing. If those processes from requisition till receipt of release of purchase orders, or even the receipt of the goods, I'm able to cut down from 20 days to 1 day, there is benefit of the transactional cost. And that benefit I can cut either improve my profitability or I can cut down the cost of my product even itself or my services around. Compliance benefits. Since we are trying to get long-term arrangement with suppliers, so we are encouraging people to go through that mechanism. So those are going through the maverick spend is being cut down. So more and more are being captured through one system. So management information quality, obviously the data quality is much better. Otherwise, if you ask some companies, okay, how much you have spent last time? Can you give me under different categories around? This should be totally on real time. But sometimes they are not able to give it. Either the data quality is very poor, some information is not captured, the coding is not done very correctly for the goods and services, or even if the coding is done, then there are errors around. So those, I think, which we are trying to improve. The next come the price benefits. Certainly when you're doing with the negotiated prices, through strategic sourcing, you're done the negotiated prices, you've set up the arrangement with the supplier, agreement with the suppliers. Those price benefits are going across the board in all your branches. Payment benefits. Certainly to me, this has been the most crucial thing around the payment part. If I can assure a good payment with the right time, you are able to improve the perception of the supplier. Supplier feel, oh, this is a wonderful company to work with. If I say 30 days, I get my payment in 30 days. If I say 10 days and with a discount, I get in 10 days. So that improves the perceptions, the motivation of the supplier to work with you. So there are payment benefits around. Certainly if I'm a supplier and if you say, guys, we pay in 10 days or 5 days, you give us a discount of 4%, discount of 3%. I think many suppliers would be willing to work that way around. So the same thing I'm trying to put in the advantages, improved process efficiencies, reduction in errors, better compliance, enhanced leverage, and improved sourcing. So sourcing is also improving around. This one shows you a little bit picture the process part, more from the e-procurement side, but it doesn't cover the payment part still. Here what we're trying to show you is the end users are one side, suppliers are the other side, the procurement department is there, the catalogs are there. Now this is the area which we really need to come up, more and more catalogs around. Either the supplier should have a catalog, or you should build the catalog. If you're not building, then there could be third party who could build up the catalogs, and that's the way to go around. I can tell you from my experience around, we had, even in the UN, we had the long-term arrangements with all the office suppliers, all the computer suppliers, printer suppliers, for travels. So wide range of items which we call as common user items, we had the long-term arrangements. So the process was so well automated that the users could even generate the POs themselves. So that's the way we're trying to make it around, automate the process itself. So managing the e-catalog is a biggie issue. Let me be honest. Easy to say, but since I've gone through it, I've created myself the catalogs. Some of them are easily already available online. Some of you can download even now. It's available free. So we created a lot of catalog for emergency relief items, a catalog for medical item, a catalog for vehicles, catalog for wide range of items we did around. And those catalog helped us to procure or negotiate the prices based on the catalog. And once the prices are fixed, the buying is much easier. So that means we could do this whole thing part on a centralized basis, the strategic part on a centralized basis, but the real transaction part could be outsourced, given to someone else to do it. Now coming to the building the business case around. Now e-procurement, as I said to you, have been in the use for decades. Basically came from 1990, I would say, since the advent of internet. Although before internet, we were using VSAT, we were using EDI. I've seen those days since I told you we were building the EDI's softwares around. But I think major came from 1990s. Now, even in spite of the maturity of the technology landscape, we estimate the company use only about 25%, even those people who have gone for this. But the effective use has been 25 to 30%. So more and more people are moving into this. I think the more maturity they get, more confidence level they get, more usage of these is going up. So we expect in the time to come, particularly with economic pressures, people are going to make more effective use of this and then in the process save some funds. Another reason I could say also is that the training is a very important around. Many companies I've seen around, they spend on the softwares, but they don't spend time and money on the people training them. There has to be funds for training. Some of the people have been those who have grown up in the old environments, the traditional procurement environments. Now you're moved into the e-procurement, you're moved into P2P, but people have to be trained. I've seen many companies around when I say, oh, procure to pay, they'll say, no guys, payment is part of the finance. They still think in a silos. So that linkages has to be made between the finance and procurement. So this is where I feel the training, building the mindset of the people is very important around. The catalogs are very important around. The clear benefits has to be, even if you're going for the first time to sell, say, you're trying to build up the business case for your company, try to come up with the right benefits around. And the team which is going to work on this should be cross-functional team. Alone procurement people can't do it. If I just say, oh, I want to go with the P2P, one team will agree, then the finance people say, no guys, payment is our baby. We are a custodian of the payments. Things are stuck there. So you have to form a cross-functional team, sell the ideas around before you go further. So this is where I'm trying to show you how in the catalog part, because when you're going for a system, you're going for a software, you need to see, how do I go around? Should I take it on a lease? Should I build up my own systems? So this is where it shows you third parties, application service providers around. So that is becoming very popular nowadays. Instead of building your own system, there are other systems available around. Now here also shows you some ideas about, I'm sure all of you know Peter Classic methodologies around the 2x2 matrix. It shows you where you should need to build up the catalogs. The complete spend. So when you're building up your case for doing all this, you really need to work it out. What are the areas you will try to build up the catalogs? Some item will be off catalog, some will be through catalogs. So you need to work it out which of the item will come through catalogs. I think the Peter Classic concepts are based on expenditures and the risk. So you have 4 categories around routine items, leverage items, critical items, and bottleneck items. So those which are routine, and they are falling 80% of the item, but value-wise 20%. It's 80-20 formulas. Certainly this particular box with the low values on the risk side and the low value on the expenditure side has to go into the catalogs. Even in the leverage items, which are high values, low risk, many suppliers, the value is big. You could go for the spot buying, or you could also do the leverage through catalogs around. So we have done this experience around. If somebody has a specific question, I'll be very happy to answer how to do the catalog for the leverage items around. Now the critical items are very critical, very few supply sources. You're working with a partnership approach. Bottleneck also, you work on a partnership approach. Maybe in those 2 areas, catalogs are not suitable for the time being. So this is where it shows you where, when you're building up a case, where to build up the case around. Now comes you, okay, you got the idea around, you got the idea of benefits when you're making the business case. The major cost is the system cost, the software cost. So build or buy, should I build my own? Or should I buy the system around? Which was not there 6-7 years back around. Today, you can build your own, which takes you time. We happened to launch ERP in 2006 in 166 countries around in the UNDP. I was leading it. I did that way, building up. I know how much effort we had to go through that. But now today the choices are there available of buying. So I don't have to build it. I can outsource it and I can straightway get the ready-made supplies. I use it and I pay for the uses. So I just pay for the uses. I don't build up my own big system around. And then I need an IT team. There's a big cost around. And to keep updating all that thing around, you have to see around what is suitable for you. Obviously, the choices are ASP, as I told you. Somebody else is hosting for you. Second is that you get the lessons for that around. You build up your own servers. You build up your own systems. Or third could be that you have an ASP model and later on you gradually transfer the technology to yourself. So migrating to cloud is becoming very popular. 3-4 years back, I would have different issues. I know there are concerns of securities, but those are improving with the time. So with the cloud is becoming more cost effective. Instead of you building your own system, somebody has a system. It is not on your premises. It is somewhere, and that guy is giving services to many companies. In the process, they're trying to get the cost-effective approach. So this is where we are trying to show you the cloud computing also. The last one is the software, which is called SaaS, software as a service. It's more like a renting a car, leasing a car. You don't buy a car. Use it, pay for the uses. Same way you can do for your software. If you're trying to go for P2P, you want to go for e-procurement, you want to go for any systems around, you can get those and more like a lease system. The very first column shows you where you are trying to manage everything, starting from applications, from data, runtime, middleware, operating system, virtualization servers, storage, networking. You are building up everything. The second one shows you only care for the application and the runtime, but somebody else is managing it. Then there's a platform. The last one is SaaS, which is becoming very popular nowadays. That's the way to go. Now, when it comes to implementation and planning, again, keep in mind communication, and change management. I know sometimes we oversee this part. Some people at the top level, they think, oh, they have understood the concepts. It's very easy. They want to implement from day one new system. You really need to communicate with the people. What new system is coming up around? Stakeholders has to be part of it. All the stakeholders, including your employees, they have to be part of it on the communication. The change management. I remember when I traveled around 85 countries just to train my people what the new system is, what benefits it has over the existing one. Until you change, you don't train the people around, any good system could fail. So that's where, if you want to improve the success rate, I want to focus on the change part. Because everybody, you know, they're used to one. The comfort level is there. The moment you come with the new systems, they will come up with 100 excuses. The new system will have these problems. But then you guys have to take up a risk. You have to train the people around. And if necessary, the ideas are good, then those has to be customized. We must have performance measurement. If you're implementing something, spending money on this, and these monies are not small, they're big monies, there must be performance measurement. If it is somebody has given to you, supplier has told you, you will get so much saving, you will get this much benefits. Those performance indicators has to be built into it. The KPIs. If somebody says your process will be cut down by, let's say, from 20 days to 4 days, process time will go down. Your automation will cut down the cost of the people around. Those performance measurement has to be done as a part of the indicators. And those performance measurement could be at the managerial levels, at different levels, but certainly at the level of the procurement, you really need to see the impact. Is it really helping me? Is it making my system more difficult or easier? Some system may not be user-friendly. If they're not user-friendly, there's no idea of having a system which may make life difficult for you. So system has to be user-friendly, and that's where you want to see the impact on the procurement market. Now, the role of the business case, I said to you, measure the cost and savings. So before you come up with the systems, you have to define what are the costs today and what are the savings going to happen. Tools for understanding the benefits. Internal marketing. Internal marketing means I'm trying to say change the mindset of the people at the top level and your peers and your juniors. So you really need to convince everybody around. The process. The traditional process, those of you, I would again emphasize on this word, might be some repetitions, because I must have seen in these 4 years, many companies around in India, I would say 70 to 80% traditional companies are still moving with traditional procurements. They have to get out of this. If they want to compete, they want to become global companies, they want to be cost effective, it's important. I can straightway say pinpoint the process inefficiencies. Potential for errors are enormous. Non-compliance. Even if your company is having 5 branches around, one guy has set up with a wonderful contracts, others are not taking the benefit of it. So the leverage is missing. The suboptimal sourcing around. So this is where my interest is. This is the right time. And with the young people, with very good friendly with the computer system nowadays, I think this is the right time for us to move into e-procurement or P2P. I know you may go with the e-procurement first, then P2P, because some company may have a resistance from the payment side. But I think it's a wonderful if your management agrees, guys, we will deal from Procure-to-Pay. Go for it. So the financial evaluation has to be done. What level of investment you can make around. So those data need to be collected around. So you really need to make a business case. So I know sometimes companies hire a consultant, they come and do it. But your role is equally important around, otherwise consultants will write the language what they feel comfortable. So you have to see it, what exactly you feel comfortable or not. So the strategy again, if you're trying to finalize the P2P strategies, if your company is agreeing for straight from procure to pay, it's a wonderful ideas. Ensure that your P2P objectives are very clear and procurement and finance are working together. Decide on timings. You could go with the phased introductions. There are different thoughts around. Some people love to go with a big bang. Some says, okay, let me do first. Let me taste this. It looks good. I get the real benefits around. Then I move to the next stage. We did in 1 year ERP implementations, 166 countries around, covering around close to 10,000 people, and with a big bang in a year. And I think we found it was much useful. Success was there. Sometimes, I mean, it depends on the funding available, because some management may think, I don't want to sink all my money. If it doesn't work, all the funds are gone. Some may like to go with a phased manner. So I leave it to you. So that depends on the management, depends on the risk-taking capacity of the companies around. So that's the way to go. So then you have to really build up the scale of your P2P system over time. Here comes the cost element. I'm just giving you some idea about the cost elements. This may vary case to case, but this gives you broad indicators. Sometimes what we do is we just get the licensing fee. Or we say, oh, this is hardly very small amount. But keep in mind, the licensing fee is only 10% of the total cost. Then you're going to make a cross-functional team at a senior level, which is going to work for 6 months, 8 months, depending on the size of the project. That's going to cost you. And that cross-functional team will be involved in training, maintenance. That's where these, sometimes IT company makes around is 15 to 20%. Company to company, this may vary, of the cost around. Then cost of creating and updating the content of the catalogs. That is very important. Or e-catalog is important. If you want to really get the benefits, e-catalog has to be built in. Updating the cost around. Connecting to suppliers. You really want to connect with the hub market through the hub one-to-one basis. And you have to upgrade strategies around. Because after 2 years, you will say the technology is moving very fast. Today, which looks wonderful, the state of art, but may not be after 2 years. Some new tools may come up around. So you have to build into the cost upgrade strategy after 24 months. So when you're making a case, the business case, please include this as well. And those of you who are having ERP, so naturally when I'm putting P2P, it has to be linked up with ERP. The payment is again linked up with the finance part. So it is again has to be linked to ERP. There's a cost for that. Reorganization cost. So when you're making the new structures, new systems, you can't follow the old structures of the organization. The organization structure has to match with the software which you're trying to implement. So the flow chart of the new system, according to that, the new organization structure has to be made up. Training costs will be there, obviously. The travel costs, classrooms, away from the job, those training costs are there around. The process cost, design and customization. I mean, in principle, we would like to use the best practices. But again, I can understand each company has its own limitations around. So those limitations, for any good or bad reasons, has to be customized. And that customizations cost you enormous. Since I have gone through this process, I can say this costs you enormous. So you really have to see around. So when you're looking for customizations, before that, do the business process re-engineering. We went to each and every sections. I remember when I was working it out, how the requisition starts from X to Y till approval, it goes to the PO, procurement guy. So the whole requisition flow chart should be there around. The moment I get a requisition in the procurement, how does it move in my departments around? Who are the key players around? So we have to draw the flow chart. Then we start looking at it. Okay, which are the steps which add values? Some of the steps you will be surprised don't add any values. They have been going on for ages. So this is the best time to clean up the process, to update the process and make it more cost and efficient process around. So software upgrades, obviously they are also there. And keep in mind, after 5 or 10 years, then sometime companies will come up, guys, we are not supporting this system now. Either you have to move into the new system. Those changes could happen. And to implement any software of a high size, big size, it's more like a project manager, managing a project. You need those skills, how to manage a project. Since our case, it was $60 million project, how to implement. You need a full team. You need a project manager full time, at least for a year, till it is launched, till it is implemented successfully. I think I'll touch on this point around is, don't think implementing any system is more like a sprint. That I run very fast. No, it's more like a marathon. So you need a mindset of a marathon race, not the sprint. I just go for a 100-meter race. I spend the money, I want results immediately. It is more like a marathon. So you need people, need to have patience and need to do a good work and project management as well. Here I'm touching the word indirect, direct, because that's where the P2P, when we come around, indirect is a major chunk where we are going to get the benefits around. So the direct is the one which are those directly involved in the production of the finished goods, services around. Indirect, we do not go directly into the production of finished goods, our service, but are required. Some of the items could be MRO items. So those could be there also into this around. So those are the big chunk I think we need to work around. And this is where you will find in most of the companies, direct materials we are able to capture. But the indirect part, which could be 30 to 40% or 50%, depending on which vertical we are talking around, that's not captured at all. And that's where we want to bring some automation, some improvements, some savings. This is how to go around. So again, I'll try to give you practical tips from my experience around think big, start small. Manage very tightly. You need a wonderful project manager to manage it on a regular basis. It is not only about the technology. You might have got a wonderful technologies, but the real lessons are soft issues around, surrounding the implementation. How do you convince the people around? How do you convey the people around? So the soft issues are equally important than technologies. You got the best technologies, but people are not, the mindset is still same. So that's where we need the soft issues, communicating, taking them along, involving the stakeholders, why we are doing this, what benefit we are expecting around in the long term. That's where we need to carry around. So those soft issues are very important. E-procurement, P2P will challenge this attitudes part, the way people work. So you really need to work it out, the motivation part of the business. The re-engineering, as I said to you in the beginning, is very important. Adopting the new processes, and then rather than simply e-enabling the existing one, you just put the E word on the existing one. That E is wonderful looks. Oh, I've got an E system. I've seen in the government also, many companies are saying, oh, we have got the E system. But the processes are old-fashioned. The processes are same. I get the bids. Somebody will evaluate, takes 3 months. Then after evaluation, some protest will come up. Then it takes 6 months. Just putting a E is not helping much. And then in some companies I've seen, they're getting the offers also electronically. They're also accepting the offers manually. Other way, hard copies form. So E means work out your system as well. Another lesson which I'm putting up is around is I've improved over the time, and procurement and the procurement and account payable must work together. That's very important. Around user-friendly interfaces are a must. Do the sourcing. So sourcing part is equally important for P2P to succeed. If I'm heading P2P, which is a totally automated process, if my sourcing has not been done well, I don't think I'll get the real benefit there around. So in the sourcing, the catalog has to be there. Sourcing has to have the long-term arrangements. Those has to be done very well around. So the corporate policy has to be there around. Then constancy of the purpose has to be there around. That's the way to look at it. Then the light linkages between, as I said to you, procurement and this. Sometimes they may say that we are working in different places. The key to efficiency is minimizing the number of touches. So here again I'm putting it up. The number of touches are to be minimum. Then pay on receipt. That also has to be worked very well. This I can say across the board. I'm sure many of you know very well. The payment process is very slow. So if this could be automated and procurement and finance people could work together, I think that'd be wonderful. The next step I'm looking at is the way Janon is vendor prepares the service receipts, e-invoice, the consolidation, all those facilities are built into this. I think we could go one step further on that. Areas of improvements, which I'm looking around P2P. Presently, it is still missing in many companies. I would say most of the companies in India and abroad, it is there. P card, P card, P card. Why should I make a PO for small values? To make a PO also costs you money. So those items which are below the cost of making a PO, when I say the cost of the PO doesn't mean only the paper cost or online cost. It's the cost of all the people involved, including those who are including the approval process. If you look at the salary of each one's, the timing involved in that cost. If the cost is around, let's say, 5,000 rupees or 4,000 rupees to make one POs. So less than that, why should I make a PO of 100 rupees? That's the way we need to go for P cards. I know the P card is still not very popular in India. Some banks have come up. I had a chance to talk to a few ones. Procurement spend analysis, strategic sourcing, contract compliance, and when to take a trade discount. This is, I don't know, I will be very happy to hear from you. If anybody is taking a trade discount, if I pay the money in advance, I pay in 10 days instead of 30 days, do I get a discount? That's the area which I feel is a great area to improve around. 2 to 3% discount is a big thing. Now here when we talk about the building blocks of P2P, so the P2P success, if you're looking around like a kitchen table, so you have the 4 legs. The very first leg has to be user-friendly interfaces. Interfaces should be seamless, starting from requisitions to POs, receipt, payments, disbursement of payments through treasury. So those should be user-friendly interfaces. The next one I would say around the second leg I would say is solid sourcing behind the interface. You have wonderful P2P system, but behind that, the sourcing has to be very good. If sourcing has been done very well, good catalogs have been made around. I mean, here I can give you my personal advice on individual one-to-one basis. If somebody wants, I will be very happy to give you what I have done in the past on that. Because I had chance to build up the coding system. UNSPSC, this was my baby in good old days around. Solid sourcing behind the interface. The third leg I would call is the policy development. So each organization should come with the wonderful policies and compliance issues around. The fourth is supplier enablement. You enable the supplier to make it work. So that's also very important around supplier enabling it also. Successful P2P has a tabletop. It should have a consistency. So we talked about the four legs, but the top we're talking around, it should have consistency of the purpose and it should go on. So that's where I will look around. So P2P success again I put down is not the impatient thing. You otherwise are for easily distracted people. Some have a wonderful idea today, but they don't have a patience for a year. No patience for 6 months. They want results in 1 month. If it doesn't happen, they start, oh, this is not helping us. You need patience for that as well. The key elements of success, whether for P2P or for e-procurement, whatever you're taking around, technology plus people. Good technology is important. Good people are very important behind it. And the combination of those could make a success around. So keep in mind, the success comes from the people, what you have, how did you train them, were they part of this, the process and the technology part. Now here comes the future part. Now we have seen, we started in good old days. If I look back in my four-decade journey, the phone used to be very common, the fax used to be common. Many of you may not have done EDI since I was involved in building up EDI standards, but those standards are now, they're still existing in few companies. I know Walmart uses still, but they're dying. Now electronic catalogs have come up, e-procurement has come up around. The world is not going to stop with that. A P2P, so many possible applications have come up around. At the end of the day, you have to keep competitive advantage on the price, the service you provide, the delivery you give it to the customers. That's where things are going around. The new thing which I have seen last time when I happened to visit the workshop of ISM, which was attended by 3,500 people in Arizona, Internet of Things, IoT. IoT is coming up around in the part of the technologies. 3D printing is coming into the procurement technologies. Those are also coming up. I know in India some people have started understanding at least, but I had happened to see it. I could see many stalls when I went to Arizona on the procurement technology. Those are the areas, Internet of Things, IoT and 3D printing. So that's becoming a new dimension around. So in short, what I'm trying to say is procurement is becoming a key profession. You need much more knowledge. So knowledge means, specialized knowledge means is a profession. So you really need to keep pace with that around. So lastly page, I would say in summary what I'm trying to convey. P2P has a significant role to play in the future of procurements. If you want the sustainability of your companies, be competitive, you have to go for it. It should not be only seen as a cost cutter, but as a strategic function that can have a real impact on the bottom line. And the lastly, I would say, this bandwagon is rolling. The question is that all business must ask is, should I jump on now? If you don't jump on now, it will be too late. Then you could be more under its wheel. So that's my last summary on this. So, well, friends, again, I want to thank you for your patient hearing. This is a journey, and the journey will go on. So this is where I'm trying to show this is more like a journey. 1 hour, this is what I could cover, some part of the journey, a P2P online seminar. So please, the journey will go on. If you have still any questions, carry on. I look forward to your questions. Please raise your hands, or we could do the chatting as well. So those who will raise the hands, I will certainly unmute them and then I can hear them as well. Thanks again to everyone.